Hi, I'm Dr. Garima Srivastava and I'm a counseling psychologist. I'm bringing the third episode in the series of how to parent or the parenting challenges in the current times of COVID-19. In the first two videos, we talked about, how we should talk to our little ones about coronavirus and also how we can use this time to actually make the most of, being with them at home. In the third video, I would like to talk about some specific signs of stress or anxiety that our little children experience, or the way anxiety gets manifested with little children. And I'm talking about children between the age group of 4 to about 10 years of age, because after that, the manifestation or representation of anxiety changes. So it's very developmentally constructed to a large extent. So, before I mention these signs of anxiety, just a word of caution for parents. Please do not worry if you feel like on and off or once in a while your child has shown one or two of these signs, because that's normal. Whenever you put children in an unusual situation or a threatening situation where they feel fear or any kind of threat, or they feel sad, worried, they are likely to show up these, signs. The reason that I'm talking about these signs is also to make parents aware that during the COVID-19 lockdown period, where there is a lot of tension in the air and a lot of talks that are happening around them may not be very helpful. So sometimes they might be bottling up a lot, and that exposure of hearing things continuously about coronavirus or our reactions to it or whatever media that's playing, when that gets doubled up with other changes in their lives, like they are not going to school anymore, sometimes they are dealing with new situations at home, they don't know how to kind of also deal with being at home all the time. They might have issues with siblings, fights, and everything. Sometimes parents have certain expectations that they are not able to meet, boredom, like everything. When it comes together, it may lead to anxiety. So, I'm not saying that every child is prone to having anxiety because of COVID-19, but the situation that we are currently in may be a fertile ground for them to develop some kind of worry or stress. So it's very important for us to be aware, and being aware is the first step towards helping your children. So if you know what these signs are, you would be in a better position to actually help them. So I'm just going to list them down. One of the first signs of, or one of the signs of anxiety in children is excessive crying, which means that young children, when they are put in unusual situations that they are not used to, they may show their stress by crying. So that's something that you should kind of keep in mind. If your child is crying more than what they usually do, it could be a sign of some kind of stress or anxiety that they are not able to deal with. Point number two, there are usually changes in their regular patterns of, say, sleeping. So sleeping is something which comes easily to children. They tire out, and they're used to a certain rhythm of sleeping and waking up. But when they're anxious, that gets disturbed. So that this is something that you may have observed as parents as well, that whenever your child is a little bit scared, they kind of have difficulty sleeping. And if they're experiencing anxiety, it even becomes more, kind of profound. So they may not want to sleep, they may want to keep staying up to avoid sleeping, or they may become clingy, they may want you next to them. They may wake up in the middle of the night. And another extreme form of sleep disturbance in children comes in the form of nightmares, which means that they sometimes see things which they register all through the day subconsciously through nightmares. So if your child is waking up in the middle of the night as having difficulty sleeping, or even communicating that they're having some bad dreams, I think you should just hear them out and listen to them instead of just negating it, hearing it out and helping them feel better about the situation by communicating to them would be a good idea. The third sign of anxiety in children is going back to behaviors that they have previously mastered, which is also known as regression. Now, this in young children, the most common form of regression is bedwetting. So, a lot of children, when they are stressed and anxious, begin to wet their bed at night, and this is a short sign of some kind of stress and anxiety that they are not able to deal with or they're not able to process. So this is something that as parents you could be vigilant about. The next thing is just feeling, in general, you see your child feeling sad, they're not in their usual spirits, and also some signs of worry. So if the child is actually coming up to you and repeatedly asking you questions, like coronavirus कब खत्म होगा, मैं वापस स्कूल कब जाऊंगा, these are also signs of worry for a young child. Also asking specific things like, what if it happens to us? What if it happens to my grandparents? Is there a cure for it? All of these things are also signs of worry, which is kind of keeping them preoccupied. So it's important that you pay attention to these questions that they're asking and where they are coming from, because you as parents are the best judge. You know how much your child can worry and to what extent do they ask these kind of questions. Another sign of anxiety in young children is the lack of motivation or the lack of interest in doing things that they usually like. So if a child likes to play a game or spend time with their siblings or color, they may not want to do it, or more than that, they may lose their ability to pay attention to a task. So there is a decline in attention and concentration if they are anxious. So that's another thing that as parents, you should just be, kind of observant of. Also, young children tend to become more clingy when they are anxious. So they may want you with them. If you're working in the kitchen, they would come there. They would ask you to come and sit with them. They would always want to be around you, and they get irritable when you're not there. Now, if this is something that you're observing in your child a little bit more, you should take notice of it, and you should try and link this behavior to some situation that may have happened. So instead of getting irritated with our children and telling them to behave like big children or be on their own, I think it would help to sit with them, talk to them, give them assurance that you are with them, you are around them. If you're at home, you could probably, even if you have something to do, whenever possible, you could, try and be around them, but obviously not make them overtly dependent on you as well. It needs to be done in a balanced manner. The last sign of anxiety in young children that I'm going to be talking about is unexplained aches and pains. So, stomach ache is one of the ways in which they express anxiety, and there are enough studies which show that children complaining of stomach ache or feeling some kind of pain in their stomach is actually their way of saying that they're feeling anxious. They don't know how to say that they're feeling anxious. They haven't learned that vocabulary yet. So it's important that if they're complaining of headache or some ache, especially stomach ache, just take note of it. I'm not saying that you need to give them a lot of attention and you need to kind of put everything aside, but you need to be observant and vigilant of these patterns. So these are some of the signs which kind of come up a lot in young children. Of course, these change or new signs come up when children are a little bit older, which I'm not touching upon. Now, after hearing to all of these signs, a lot of you might start feeling like, your child has these signs. Now, it's important for you to know that every child is different. There are some children who are in general a little more susceptible to feeling stressed, worried, scared, anxious. So if your child is already that kind of a child, you have to remember that before you start to, worry too much about having these signs. Having said that, you also need to take it seriously if you feel like they're having a cluster of these symptoms. So it's important for them to experience a group of these symptoms rather than just one symptom. If it's one or two symptoms, you can deal with it at your own level. But if they are having a cluster of symptoms that are happening over a period of time, then you, of course, must reach out and talk to a trained mental health professional before diagnosing on your own what your child is going through, because that's probably more harmful than helpful. So keep that in mind. And also remember that COVID-19 is not the only thing that is going to cause anxiety in your child. Like we discussed in the previous few videos, that it is also the kind of things that they're going to see at home that is actually going to balance out the anxiety or the fear that this pandemic is creating. So you need to remember that. We have already discussed this in the last video, and I'm going to link it below. But I would just have a quick recap for all of you about the things that you can keep in mind to ease their anxiety in case they're having a few of these signs on and off. I'm not talking about a cluster of symptoms. The first is to communicate openly with your child. Talk to your child about COVID-19, like, they're individuals who can understand in an age appropriate manner, but give them a lot of love and assurance that everything is fine. Point number two, try and have a routine to whatever best extent possible, because having a routine is going to keep them meaningfully engaged, and they're going to have less time to worry about things which may catch their attention. So they should have enough time for learning and also recreation, and you should have the same, so they see that everybody is busy with their own lives irrespective. Point number three, being a good role model. And when I say being a good role model, of course it means that you have to teach them to talk about their feelings, tell them that it's okay to feel worried. You can also discuss some of the things that you are worried as a parent, and tell them that it's important to talk about our feelings and find solutions to the problem. So be a role model in terms of how you deal with stress. Be a role model in terms of how you are busy with your day and you're following a routine. And also in terms of helping out each other at home, doing joint activities together. So this could actually help ease the anxiety that they're feeling, because personal contact and warmth from parents kind of helps in a great way. And point number four, have as much open communication with them. So do not wait for them to showcase any anxiety before you start talking to them. Just keep talking to them. Have a open channel of communication so that they know that they can talk to you and they can open up about their feelings with you in general. And this is something that will help not just in this situation, but any other difficult, threatening situation that they may experience in their life. This was the video. I hope it was useful. I hope it would kind of allow you to be a little more vigilant about little, signs that you may see in your children or other children around you. If you have any questions, you could list them below. And I would also like to know from you what else would you like to know about from a psychologist's perspective when it comes to parenting children during these times. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.